morning YouTube. We've got one more job to do on the cooling system before we're done, and that is to replace the heater valve, which is this little fella in the back of the engine bay just round here. It's in the hose that goes from the thermostat housing to the heater, so behind the intake ducting and alongside the coolant header tank. Now, it's a known weak item in the Elan's cooling system. The problem is that it's metal bodied, so if you get any corrosion taking place in your cooling system, it tends to corrode from the inside out, and the first thing you know there's anything wrong with it is when it dumps your coolant all over the road and leaves you stranded in the middle of nowhere. Now, this car's got a full service history and the coolant's been regularly changed. If you're watching the video where we took the radiator out, when we flushed the radiator there was quite a lot of rust in there, so there's obviously some corrosion been taking place in the cooling system at some point. So I'm not going to take any chances with that heater valve, and I'm going to replace it. Now, the original metal items are obsolete now. Some of the independent Lotus specialists sell a similar metal bodied one, but it's not quite the same. The vacuum module is in a slightly different orientation, and I don't see the point of replacing a weak original metal item with a non-original weak item, so instead we're going to replace it with this plastic bodied heater valve, which is off a Volvo 760, which uses an almost identical valve to the Elan. The only difference is, of course, the body being plastic, it won't corrode the way the original one did. This is the one we're using. They're quite widely available off eBay for around £20, and it seems to be pretty well made. I'm quite happy with it. Just to explain to you what it is and how it works, this is the heater valve, and it's fitted into this hose, which is the hot water flow to the heater. The hose underneath down there, that is the cold water return from the heater. Now, when you have your heater controls set to the cold setting, engine vacuum is applied to that little vacuum hose there, which acts on this vacuum module, which is part of the heater valve, and sucks the valve closed. When you turn the heater control from the cold to the warm position, two things happen. Firstly, the heater control operates a rod which operates a flapper valve within the heater itself, which diverts the incoming air over the heater matrix to warm it up. But the other thing is it also operates a micro switch, and that releases the vacuum in the vacuum hose to the heater module. So if you're watching the next module, as we turn the control from cold to warm, you'll see the valve opening. And if you watch carefully, just below the centre of the screen, as we turn the heater control from cold to warm, you'll see the valve opening. There you go. It's actually a little bit easier to see how it operates with the new valve off the car. If you look on the body of the valve, there's an arrow there which shows the direction of coolant flow. And you see that in this condition, you can blow through that, so the hot water is free to flow to the heater. However, when you turn the heater control to the cold position, that micro switch means that vacuum gets applied to the back of the vacuum module here, and as I suck on that, you'll see that the valve closes, so you'll see this operating. And then obviously when you turn the heater to warm, you release the vacuum and the valve opens again. If your heating's not working properly, it's either constantly blowing hot or it's constantly blowing cold, then there are a couple of things to check before condemning the heater valve, because it might just be that the heater valve is stuck either open or closed, but it could also be if your heater is blowing hot all the time, that the micro switch isn't working properly, or there's a leak in that vacuum pipe to the heater valve. If the heater is cold all the time, you can't get any hot air coming through, then it could be the flapper valve that diverts air across the heater matrix, or it could also be that the heater matrix is blocked by corrosion. But when we take the heater valve off, we're going to flush the heater matrix through anyway. Replacing the heater valve though is pretty easy. Turn the heater control to hot and then drain the coolant down far enough that the coolant is below the level of the heater. So you don't have to drain all the coolant, just get it below the level of the heater by removing one of the hoses round about the thermostat or at the front there. Then, two hands is plenty for this, as long as you're not trying to video it at the same time. Reach in and pull the vacuum hose off the back of the vacuum module and get that out the way. And then there's just two Jubilee clips there and there at either end of the heater valve. Release those, pull the pipes off either end, and that's it, the valve is free. And this one's actually not too bad structurally, but you see if we can just shine the torch in there, there's quite a lot of sediment in there, so I'm glad we've swapped that out. Also, if I shine the torch from the back, you can just see as I manually operate the valve how the flapper valve opens and closes. Before I put the new valve back on now, I'm going to backflush the heater matrix to wash any sediment that's accumulated over the years out of it. So release the return hose from the heater matrix. The easiest place to do that is to release that Jubilee clip just down there and pull the hose off. And then remember, when you're flushing the heater matrix, you want to reverse circulate it, so the opposite to the normal water flow direction. So you're going to put the hose pipe into the return pipe here and flush the water and the sediment out through the flow pipe, the pipe that the heater valve is in. Okay, then let's see what horrors we get out of here. So we've got the garden hose pipe going into the return hose, and then we're going to back flush through the flow hose and discharge it into this washing bowl. Okay, ED, water on. Water on.
It is on.
More water on. Oh, hang on, there we go. That's all right. Go on, keep going. Yeah, go on, keep. Wind her up. And I'm pleased to say that is not too bad. Actually, there's a bit of scale and sediment in there, but not too much rubbish. So, good. Let's get the heater valve back in. Putting the new one on is pretty easy to do. It's just pretty hard to video because all you could see was my hands. But a bit of silicone spray lubricant on the spigot helps the rubber hoses slide over those. And then the only thing to do is make sure that you get the arrow there pointing in the flow direction. So there you go, just slip your pipes back on, do up your Jubilee clips, put your vacuum hose back on, the vacuum module, and then refill the coolant system. It's not uncommon to trap a bit of air in there actually, so if you find when you've done all this that your heater doesn't seem to be particularly warm, just run the car until it's hot, let it cool down, and next time you start it you should find that air has circulated itself out. Roll on, winter!
Since we've no place to go, let it